Qubic hit the upper mid-market when they first released the QS220 actuators, followed up by the V20 and then the QS-S25. Qubic is still positioned well in the high entry to extreme now that they've released the QS-S35, but there was a lack of presence in the mid-entry, which was addressed with the value-minded QS210 actuators. What if I told you that we could now get high-end motion, but for half that lower price? Yes, please. Hello YouTubers, this is the noobifier. It is my pleasure to review and introduce Pivot from Qubic. For transparency, I'm going to acknowledge that noobifier Media is a distributor that services both Canada and the United States, so all of these products are available directly from us, and normally us content creators review products that were provided by the company for free. But in this case, as we are distributors for these products, we have and will continue to pay for any Qubic systems in full for ourselves. It's a little bit less icky this way, and if you've been following the channel for some time, you're going to understand that our goal is no bullshit, so we have and will always be impartial. It's clear that the goal of Pivot is to break down the point of entry barrier lower and offer you the benefits of Qubic at a price point that was not previously available. Pivot is available for use with two versions of actuators, the QS210 set and the QS220 set. I'm going to speak about performance and cost differences with these a little bit later, and we'll begin with the basics. My Pivot shipped to me in a plain cardboard box. To protect it from shipping damage, it was lined on both sides with several additional layers of cardboard that would ensure that it would arrive in perfect shape. There are a pair of brackets with adjustability to suit a wide range of applications and compatibility with most sim platforms on the market. The Pivot is overbuilt. The Pivot was heavier than it looked when I picked it up for the first time. It's basically thick steel plates that have been water cut for clean edges, drilled with precision, and then sandwiched to form one solid part held together with bolts. It's quite pretty and fits nicely into the theme of other more modern Qubic products. That familiar red and black can be seen when it's front mounted, but it can be seen better when it's mounted to the rear of the platform. I'm going to say don't mount it on the rear just because you think it's prettier there. There's a debate and reviews have discussed whether or not you should mount it to the front or to the rear. I've tested both and I've enjoyed my experience better with Pivot mounted to the front. You should test it for yourself rather than rely on some third party's opinion because your sim parts need to make you happy and need to impress you. The install workflow was quite simple. My install workflow was different because I had to remove two actuators for my test platform. With the platform relocated into the garage, I stood it up vertically to provide me easier access to the underside. I removed the front pair of actuators, the mounts, and the power cabinets. And remember that the newer version of the power cabinets now incorporate removable wiring, which helps with the install and the cable management. I adjusted my install for a solo cabinet operation based on the manual, setting both switches to the up position. Pivot for my configuration was held in place with the T-slide nuts and bolts that were included like you would use on any profile-based sim rig. The bolts were checked, the system was lowered and rolled back into position, and near the beginning of the video I mentioned that this would work well with one of two sets of actuators, and I also said that each of those had two options which were front and rear mounted. The QS220 actuator set has a maximum total throw of 100mm and 800mm per second, and the QS210 actuators provide just over half at 60mm of throw and 400mm of speed. In my original review of the QS210 set, the user experience provided to me has fidelity, haptics, and offers enough violence when appropriate. Appropriate would be smashing over a concrete rumble strip on Eau Rouge or grazing a tree on a rally stage. The QS210 provides a strong haptic experience with sharp and correct motion to provide an immersive experience on a budget. But the 220 is there for a reason. The QS220 will tilt more quickly, and it's just simple physics. You're going to get more sustained G-force with a greater tilt angle. The QS220 offers this with greater impulse and greater velocity and will also offer stronger haptics when you dial them up. The two actuators with Pivot offer pitch and roll with an emphasis on heave when placed on the front. Throughout testing, I was able to switch between the Pivot test system, and by disabling the CH2 on the other system, I can compare this back and forth with four actuators. A to B testing with two systems is only possible because these two systems are actually in the studio. The new studio is designed to be your studio as well. These are large purchases and we need you to know what you're buying and need you to be happy when we deliver. So I first tested this configuration in Dirt Rally 2.0 and then moved to road racing, mainly for two reasons. I've enjoyed many hours in Dirt 2.0 over the years, specifically testing the QS210 complete set, so I would easily notice differences. Plus, this title offers a little bit more exposure to the bashing and tilting of Rally. Despite being half of what I'm familiar with, I was impressed with how well the system was able to telegraph in real time the little cues needed to feel what the car was doing. The haptics are much better when the pivot is on the front, and they were muted when the pivot was mounted to the rear. The haptics are 50% of the immersion for me. I rely on them to inform me of surface changes and when I'm approaching the grip limit. I found the upward heave and side roll to be strong and correct in this configuration. I was truly impressed with the stability of the pivot-equipped system. The thick rubber curve gripped and held throughout hours and hours of testing, and it never migrated. This is a very simple product, so I will close out the video with some thoughts that I had when I was testing. I asked myself, what source of sensation was I missing running half of what I'm used to with pivot? And I found that any time that the front would normally tilt down, like the corkscrew at Laguna Seca or some parts of the ring, this was not telegraphed as well as when you're using a complete set of 4 actuators, which makes total sense. With 4, the front can drop and the rear can race. Is that important, and is that worth paying for a second set of actuators? It's impossible to answer without considering your budget and disposable income, right? I've noticed the reduction in travel. However, I was still receiving a solid and immersive experience when using Pivot. Pivot offers you a unique upgrade path where you can replace the Pivot with a second set of actuators when the time is right. And that's a great reason to consider Pivot. A great entry-level option, and trust me, I do appreciate that this configuration is still not cheap, but the cost performance is really good. Noobifier Media has purchased a BT1 for testing and use, plus the new seat mover is actually in the mail, so please stay tuned to see those reviews in the future. As a promo, anyone who orders a pair of 220 or 210 actuators will get the option to add Pivot for free. Reach out with the Contact Us section of the web store, and you can reach out there also if you'd like to book a studio visit. Thank you very much for spending your time with me. Drive safe.